want to be forever young. Do you really want to live forever?
One life,
forever,
one love,
and ever.
one soul.
Today's December 17th, 2019. I'm BrentNally, and I'm really excited to have a guest today that is a longevity pioneer, longer than probably just about anybody who is in the longevity movement today. It's been about 42 years that my guest today, Bill Faloon, has been working day and night, every single moment of his waking life, basically, to make you younger and healthier, to increase your health span and your lifespan. Bill Faloon, thank you so much for being here.
Brent, I can't wait to tell your audience what we're doing. It's unprecedented.
Yes, and I've been following your work for many years, so it's a great honor to be able to speak with you today. I met you for the first time at RadFest in early October 2019, and you had some very exciting news that you shared immediately with the audience at RadFest and then with the world. So this is a very exciting clinical trial, and I want to give you the floor to please explain this in detail.
Well, I was the keynote speaker at RadFest 2019. That was on a Thursday night. We had about 1,000 people in attendance, and what I announced was the launching of a clinical trial that is unprecedented in the history of medical science. It's unparalleled in the history of the human race, for that matter. What we are going to do, we call this the Vitality in Aging Interventions Trial. And the great news is we raised $635,000 so far in donations. Starting in January 2019, we've raised more money than what we need to conduct this study on 40 to 50 older people. And what the objective is to induce statistically significant and meaningful, meaning you can feel it, age reversal within a 12-month period of time. And what makes this trial so unique is we're going to be utilizing multimodal interventions and measuring the effect of each intervention with a plethora of different types of biomarker testing, clinical measures. We're going to identify what works, when it works, the best sequence to introduce each intervention, be it AMPK activation, senolytics, autophagy, NAD restoration, and of course biologics using different types of exosomes, moving all the way up into different gene therapies. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. The only reason we can do this for under $600,000 is we have volunteer physicians, we have laboratories like Johns Hopkins, UCLA, University of British Columbia. They're giving us subsidized pricing on the testing. We're getting subsidized pricing on the interventions. We've got volunteers, both lay and professional, willing to contribute towards this study.
Very excited and very exciting and very well stated, Bill. Thank you very much. And to kind of translate what I'm hearing there for maybe more of a lay audience or even people who are very aware about longevity research, what I'm really hearing is that for the first time, we're seeing an actual clinical trial where we're going to see what really works in humans to reverse or just slow, stop anything that helps chip away at the aging problem and disease, chronic disease problem in humans. And the other thing that I'm hearing is that we're having partnerships with other institutions and professional scientists who have bought in as well too. They're doing their work more pro bono or heavily discounted because they believe. People are going to start doing things like that when they start to believe more. So all those things I'm really excited about. Is that fair to say, the things that I just mentioned there, Bill?
Very accurate. If you recall at all the HIV epidemic of the late 1980s, early 1990s, we assisted a number of scientific groups to accelerate the development of antiviral drugs that eventually resulted in HIV becoming a manageable condition. Still shortens lifespan, but you don't die within 12 months after the first opportunity of infection the way it used to be. And we assisted those groups in obtaining medications, providing technical support, and we were saving lives back then. We're applying that same technology now, and we're getting the same type of people in, university professors, clinical practitioners who are willing to donate part of their medical practice. We're getting the groups all together focused on finding a way to eradicate biological aging. And the interventions trial that lasts 12 months, well, we intend to keep that going indefinitely. Our goal is to keep those study subjects alive and healthy for as long as technically possible. And what we're utilizing here are existing therapies. People can obtain metformin, rapamycin, senolytic therapies. Exosomes are available. They're really too expensive, but we hope to bring those costs down. And we've had indications that we're going to get access to very subsidized price exosomes, which means we can try a lot of different interventions over a 12-month period on these 40 to 50 people, and then keep it going as long as funding comes in. And I've committed a lot of my own funding to ensure this study continues.
Very exciting. And thanks so much for the work that you're doing and also your financial contributions over the years and as you continue to do that, Bill. You mentioned a number of therapies that are available now for people to use. And I like to focus on now, but also what therapies are probably coming along. So I heard a few there, metformin. I heard also exosomes. I believe that you're working with, or at least Dr. Duncan Ross, the founder and CEO of Kimera Labs, the exosomes company, spoke at the Church of Perpetual Life. I believe it was last month. I've also interviewed him at RadFest. Very fantastic guy. I'm also very excited about exosomes. Can you share with the audience your perception about exosomes right now and what you know and where you think the science is moving?
Yes, we're cautiously excited about Dr. Duncan's work. We hope he's going to contribute exosomes to our study so that we can evaluate whether they work, how well they work, if there's any safety issues with them. What makes this study different than most others, you've got pharmaceutical companies, of course, funding big trials. Well, they have a financial bias. They want to see their medication work. What we want to do with our trial is take existing therapies, technologies that everyone in your audience can gain access to right now at affordable prices, and evaluate how well they work. So our stair-step approach to biological age control involves, number one, metformin. By the way, this is assuming people are taking care of themselves. We don't want someone who's doing everything wrong and hoping our age reversal interventions are going to save them. So if they're coming into our trial unhealthy, we're not allowing them into our trial. They've got to get healthy first, doing everything your audience knows as it relates to healthy lifestyle choices, and then move forward with metformin, move forward with dasatinib and quercetin and a new fisetin that we're working on to purge the body of the senescent cell burden. As your listeners know, senescent cells are a roadblock to virtually every intervention we're looking at. Even with exosomes, you put some healthy exosomes into an older person and their senescent cells are secreting protein-degrading enzymes, secreting chronic inflammatory signals. It's going to block the efficacy of almost any regenerative therapy you're contemplating. So boost AMPK with metformin, and then remove as many senescent cells as you can with dasatinib and quercetin, fisetin. These are all currently available. We're going to make them available in a way that people can afford them, and then move forward with NAD restoration, again, an affordable way to boost cellular levels of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, this critical coenzyme that's needed for DNA repair, needed for cell energy metabolism. And then rapamycin. There's good low-cost sources of rapamycin right now, which acts as an mTOR inhibitor, which induces autophagy, cellular housekeeping. Aubrey de Grey has talked about for decades the need to remove the accumulated metabolic waste products that are inside our aged cells. We need to get rid of that junk so we can restore healthy functionality to our cells. And then once we reach that level, those levels of AMPK activation, senolytics, NAD restoration, autophagy, then we can move into the exosomes, different stem cell therapies, different gene therapies. But we want to prepare our body, make it as hospitable as possible so that those therapies have a better chance of working.
Perfect, Bill. And what I'm hearing also to kind of translate there, because you are a wealth of information and it's incredible, your brain and how you just reel off all these words, which, a longevity focused viewer understands what you're saying. But for those who might not, be following this as closely as people like you and I are, let's kind of translate a few things there. So what I'm hearing is that personalized medicine is very important and it's the future of medicine. And that's what people paying attention understand. So I'm 34, I'll be 35 in March 2020. What I need is not the same as what you need. And it's not the same of what somebody else needs as far as therapeutics, lifestyle. So what I'm hearing is that this clinical trial that you're doing, it's first doing something very important. It's getting the blood work and running other tests to get a baseline for the individual to figure out what they most likely need based off the current scientific evidence and research that we have. And then we're going to move that forward even more by 1 year from now, having those 40 or 50 people get the data back on the studies and the, get the data back on the actual lifestyle they've been doing, the therapies they've been using, the things they've been doing, and see if it actually has slowed, stopped, or reversed their aging. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely what we're seeking to do. And you may be aware of Dr. Greg Fahy. He's been an associate of Life Extension since the early 1980s. He's got an organization called Intervene Immune. He was able to show a 2.5-year reversal of biological aging over a 12-month period using an individualized dose of growth hormone, metformin, and DHEA. He was able to show via DNA methylation patterns reversals of biological aging, the thymus gland regenerating, immune markers improving, systemic regeneration with his protocol. So he was able to do that in a 12-month period. We believe we will also be able to achieve something along those lines or better because we're adding in more interventions.
Right. And Dr. Greg Fahy that Bill just mentioned, I believe that was 9 men of the study that his team recently concluded. I believe it was in September of 2019, a few months ago, released that study. I've been in email communication with Dr. Fahy and his team. We were going to do a interview earlier this month in December, but we've pushed out to February because he's still really busy with a lot of things regarding finishing up that trial and his other work. He's located in Southern California, so I hope to do this one in person. The Zoom interviews, video conference ones are great, but when I can do them in person, I'd like to. So stay subscribed for that. We'll hear more from Dr. Fahy on his specific details of that clinical trial. So Bill, let's talk a little bit about your history, because I know we're kind of jumping around here. Maybe we should have started with that, but I mentioned that you've been working day and night basically for about 42 years. That's probably longer than just about anybody who's a serious player in this longevity game. And you started with a company that you named the Society for the Rescue of Our Elders. And then a couple of years ago, you rebranded to the Age Reversal Network. And I want to let the audience know that I always do show notes for my interviews. You can find them in the description below on this YouTube video. You can also find them, I pin it to the top of the comment. And you can go there to this point and you can see a link to sign up for the Age Reversal Network's email. And you just sent one out this morning. It's December 17th. And in that email, you have a lot of exciting information. And one of the things that you discussed is the 60 Minutes interview of Scott Pelley and interviewing Dr. George Church at Harvard, who has been a scientific advisor for many aspects of the Age Reversal Network on many different projects, and is also a scientific advisor for BioViva, Liz Parrish's company. He's a friend of the longevity movement and a pioneer. So what can you say in general about, I know I'm asking you kind of a lot of questions here, but what can you say in general about how you've seen the longevity movement evolve over the last 42 years? You know, it's more exciting now. People are starting to believe. And then how did you see that portrayed in the 60 Minutes interview with Dr. George Church? And then maybe share some more specific details about that interview that people are excited about.
What happened on 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago, and you can watch this, by the way, online. Just go to YouTube and type in 60 Minutes CBS News. You can watch this whole interview with Dr. Church. But this was historic. And going back with my history, I incorporated our life extension group in 1977. Now, everyone thought I was out of my mind to try to enable people to intervene into aging, to live healthier lifestyles, and even be cryopreserved. I mean, I was involved in every aspect of the longevity medicine. And from 1977 until, frankly, 2 weeks ago, most people just didn't accept it. A growing number have been accepting the concept of age reversal, but it wasn't widely disseminated, and conventional media sources would ask the ridiculous question, why do we want to reverse aging? And I would have to contend with that question from 1977 all the way up into the present day. So many people question why we want to do this. It seems so obvious, it's difficult to give a real succinct answer. But what happened on the 60 Minutes broadcast, George Church at Harvard being interviewed by Scott Pelley, and George Church was going to be on the defensive initially, just like maybe I would have been. He thought, I now have to explain succinctly why it's beneficial to reverse aging in people. And instead, Scott Pelley said, well, of course, we need you to do that. Of course, we need age reversal. And that is the defining moment. That will now transform other media sources after they watch that 60 Minutes broadcast into saying, well, you've got a Harvard geneticist. He's doing it in animals. He's achieving remarkable results, predicts it will happen by 2030 in people, and CBS News acknowledges it. So it pretty much brings together everything I've been working on since 1977. And what CBS didn't have time to talk about was the super centenarian study that our life extension group helped to fund. We mapped the genome of super centenarians. These are people who live to be well over 100 years of age in good health. Some of them go their entire lives without ever seeing a medical doctor, and they can engage in any bad habit they want. Smoking, drinking, eating terrible diet doesn't affect a super centenarian. So we donated our research on the genome of the super centenarians to Dr. Church and anybody else, frankly. We open sourced it so that they could then seek to modify the genes of everybody so that we would all have the genetic profile of a super centenarian. And that could buy us a lot of extra time and a lot of disease-free years.
That's very exciting, Bill, and very well stated. And I just want to let people know my background is I got a communications degree from University of Kentucky in 2007. And that involved taking some mass media courses, and I've studied the mass media. And my wife has a journalism degree. You know, one thing I can share with the audience for sure is that CBS would not have allowed Scott Pelley to really even ask that question, because all those questions and comments are already pre-submitted on something like 60 Minutes. And it certainly would not have come to air if some of the higher up producers at CBS didn't want this information to kind of be out at this point and didn't think that it was serious, you know? So maybe it's been the gatekeepers at mainstream media for many years and decades. It just didn't believe that this was possible. And I think what's exciting is that now they're starting to believe this. And maybe little old BrentNally can move out of the way at some point and let the mainstream media people take over and start doing what they should have been doing decades ago, interviewing people like you, because I'm really just doing this because I think it's really important. And I don't want to get old. I don't want to see my friends and family get old. And I think that we can really avoid it if we try and if we work. And we got to look at people like you who've been doing it the longest and doing a fantastic job. Talk about...
Bear in mind, Brent, I've been doing media interviews since before 1977. And
Right.
They would always just poke fun at the idea that I wanted to initially slow aging through healthy lifestyles. A lot of them would say, it doesn't matter, when your time comes, the time comes, you know, and I said, no, that's not true. You can definitely add an extra 10 to 15 years to your lifespan if you just follow some healthy lifestyle practices. And that was ridiculed. And then as the data came in showing, yeah, people would take care of themselves, they live 10, 15 years longer, then they started believing that. But the idea of reversing the damage, they couldn't grasp that concept. But nonetheless, I persevered. So to keep saying, look, technology is evolving so that older people will eventually be made somewhat younger or completely younger, depending on how fast we can make this happen. And now we are gaining a lot of recognition in media sources. But it was that 60 Minutes broadcast with someone with the credentials of George Church. And his prediction is human age reversal will occur by year 2030. He's going to initiate a big study on dogs. And if those studies on dogs are efficacious, if those dogs grow biologically younger, I believe it'll be before 2030 when people start experimenting with gene modification therapy.
Right, and that would be with CRISPR-Cas9 by 2030, right, to reverse aging?
Yeah, George Church is working on CRISPR-Cas9, and many other scientists are too, by the way, and they're getting some really good results. So it's not just George Church, but he is utilizing the CRISPR-Cas9, and then there are other people using other types of gene-modifying technologies. So the great news is we've got lots of people out there seeking to convert us into very long-lived, healthy species.
Definitely. And since you brought that up, let's talk about it real briefly here. So I interviewed Liz Parrish on July 10th this year, 2019. Her company is BioViva. She, in September 15th, 2015, went down to Bogota, Colombia, and had a telomerase gene therapy and a myostatin inhibitor gene therapy. Myostatin inhibitor is also known as follistatin. It basically just helps prevent sarcopenia, which is your bones and muscles getting old and frail, which is a big killer for elderly people. She was 44 at the time. She's 48 now. She'll be 49 in January 2020. I think she looks great. Her, blood work, if you believe the information that she shared, and I do, I think she's a person of ethics and morals. I think that it's shown dramatic age reversal in her telomere length and some also very exciting things in her C-reactive proteins, her other blood work, her glucose levels. MRI showed more muscle mass was added when she says that she hasn't been working out as much the last few years. So these are exciting things. Libella Gene Therapeutics has 2 commitments for January next month, 2020, from a 90-year-old and a 79-year-old. And from an article I recently read, they've already paid $1 million, I believe, to do this telomerase gene therapy in also just north of Bogota, Colombia, in a small town in South America. But still the mainstream media is saying, oh, this is unethical. They have to pay $1 million for a clinical trial. Normally clinical trials, are free, and they even pay you, the person in the clinical trial, to go there. But the reality is that we're in a situation where we just don't have the institutions able to do that. So this is Libella Gene Therapeutics is a small company. BioViva is a small company. Age Reversal Network is a small company. We're doing the best that we can with the science that we have is the general statement I want people to know. And this is the most ethical thing that we can be doing to help people who want to educate themselves right now with the science that they know to help themselves. Your general thoughts on that, Bill?
Well, I've known Liz Parrish for a long time. Her commitment to this, which has been so challenging because she tried every way to raise funding so that she wouldn't have to make people pay for it. But the funding didn't manifest, so she went out of her way to make it available in Colombia, where people can pay a lot of money, but everything's expensive when it starts. I think we know that, and we wish her the best of luck. I mean, this is an interesting business, by the way, where we hope our competitors succeed, because then people like me can take a day off and not worry about dying real soon. So we very much are enthused about what she's seeking to do. We look forward to the results. She presented those results, by the way, at a conference just 2 weeks ago in Palm Beach. I was very impressed with them, and I would very much like to see her prevail. But what we're doing, as you know, with our interventions trial, and that trial, by the way, is all filled up. We've got the people now to participate in that study, is we're going to be using what's currently available and affordable. And then those people, by the way, especially if Liz Parrish's trial is successful, when we get those 40 to 50 people after 12 months into a more youthful, more hospitable biological state, then we'd love to use her therapy, because we think it will work better if we're able to improve the health and get rid of the senescent cells, remove the accumulated debris inside of the cells, so that we have a much better chance of a regenerative therapy working better.
Very well stated. And since we've been doing this theme, I'll kind of translate what I heard there for maybe a more lay audience. What Bill's saying there is that staying young and healthy biologically is the best way to avoid, aging in general and avoid getting old and dying. So when you're 90 years old biologically, and we'll say chronologically, it's much, much harder to reverse that aging, theoretically, is what I think Bill and I believe, because there's so many things going wrong in the body. So what Bill's saying is that if you can just work on the things that we know now to help keep you young and healthy, then you will be set up. You'll be in a much better place to actually benefit from these exciting therapies that seem to be years or maybe a decade or two away from being reality, to have the real strong age reversal aspects. Is that fair to say, Bill?
Oh, it's extremely fair and outrageously accurate. Every single word you said is accurate. You have to do everything you can to stay healthy today. And to give you an extreme example of what I contend with, I get calls from people who said, you know, my father really wanted to get involved in your age reversal clinical trials and self-experiment, just didn't get around to it. He's now in the ICU. His immune system has collapsed. He's septic. They give him about 2 days to live. Can you come in and do some of those age reversal therapies? I say, no, we don't know how to do that when a person is that close to dying. You have to initiate this ahead of time. Many sad stories, people in their 70s, 80s, 90s who procrastinated. They didn't even get on metformin in some cases, or maybe that's all they did, and then degenerative aging took them out, sometimes slowly, in a way that we could not intervene to rescue them. So yeah, we really need to advise your listeners, do what you know is healthy now, because it's going to enable you to get a much better benefit from any intervention you do in the future.
Perfect, Bill. So this might be overkill for some, but I think it's important for those who might be confused. Let's talk about what you believe is the most important thing for people. We'll call it all adults, anybody 18 years and older. What can people be doing right now that doesn't involve taking any pills? Let's even separate that. What are the things that you can be doing to live a long life based off the science?
Oh, I can absolutely tell you the number one important intervention is a comprehensive blood test. If you don't do that, you could have a hidden genetic problem like hyperhomocysteemia, hypercholesterolemia, elevated triglycerides, inflammatory issues. You could have underlying problems that undermine all of the good lifestyle choices you're seeking to make. So number one, for people who haven't done it yet, a comprehensive blood test. Adjust any markers that are out of balance, lower LDL, lower homocysteine, CRP, put yourself into a good state of health. Number two, reduce your calorie intake. If you're a typical American, you are overly ingesting calories. Intermittent fasting, I found, is an extremely easy way to do it. I typically go 15 to 18 hours most days without eating, and I don't miss it. I mean, I'll eat before I go to bed, which is bad, but I do it. And 8 hours later, I wake up and then I work about 10 hours. So 18 hours goes by, and I'll drink some black coffee, which gives me some energy and maybe curbs the appetite a little bit. Metformin, by the way, helps curb the appetite. And I was able to lose a lot of weight in my belly with metformin, testosterone, and just some other easy interventions. So number one, comprehensive blood test. Number two, reduce your calorie intake. Consider intermittent fasting. Some people will fast 1 or 2 days a week. I find that challenging. I find 15 to 18 hours most days easier. But this is what everyone should be doing. It's very hard to counteract the toxic effect of excess calorie ingestion or excess ingestion of toxic calories by just taking a bunch of pills. And by our mind, I sell pills. I advocate people take them. But if you're going to just rely on pills by themselves and neglect everything else, you're not going to get the benefits you're seeking.
Yeah, great points, Bill. And I also talk about intermittent fasting on my channel and all my social media outlets quite a bit. I also strive for about 15 to 18 hours every day. I'm not religious about it. I try to go how my body feels. Some days I go to 21 hours. Some days I'm at 12. I'm like, I'm hungry, so I eat. But I always get to 12 every day. My wife has our child right now. We just had our first child about 4 weeks ago. So she can't be doing intermittent fasting while she was pregnant, and she shouldn't be doing it now while she's nursing. I want, mothers to be out there to know that. But she was doing the intermittent fasting with me before she got pregnant, and she will be doing it again. We plan for her to be doing it again when she stops nursing, because it is, shown to be incredibly healthy. And one other thing that I wasn't expecting from intermittent fasting, Bill, before I started doing it a few years ago, it saves you an immense amount of time. It saves you an immense amount of money, and it also frees up your brain and energy to think about other things when you're not constantly thinking about when am I going to get my next meal, going to get the next meal, preparing to cook the food. You can just be a more productive human, and that is an awesome benefit. It's a life hack for people. So if you're not already doing intermittent fasting or thinking about it, those things might actually get people to subscribe to that mindset. What do you think about that, Bill?
100% agree. just give you an example. I don't get out much. I don't like to do in-person meetings. I prefer conference calls because just driving in traffic, the stress, not good. But I would have these legal meetings every 3 months where in the morning there would be a full spread breakfast prepared. That was more calories than I would eat in a whole day, and people would stuff themselves with that breakfast. So by 8:30, they were done with breakfast, and then around 11 or 11:30, they started to discuss the lunch options. And they'd sit there and look at menus, and write everything down, call in a place to bring lunch in so we keep working during lunch. And amazingly, after the high-calorie breakfast, high-calorie lunch, around 4, they were discussing where to have dinner. Now, during all this time, I'm eating nothing. And I'm thinking, guys, I'm not going to eat for another 4 hours. You guys have talked about 3 meals and probably something before you go to bed. Those are extremes, but those are realities. And I'm so grateful I'm able to work by myself and not have to have those kind of social pressures. Not that I succumb to them. I just tell people, you can eat yourself to death if you want. I'm just going to sit here and drink a cup of tea and no sugar in it, no cream. And you guys enjoy becoming overweight and dying sooner. So absolutely, intermittent fasting, or just fasting a couple days a week, or just reduce your total calorie intake. A study came out in 2018. Just a 12% reduction in total calorie intake resulted in 1.5 years improvement in biological age scores. So there's a lot that can be done by not doing what you see on TV and not doing what the typical person does nowadays.
Yeah, great points, Bill. Now, sleep is one thing that I like to mention a lot. I think it's the foundation of health, and I haven't heard you mention that yet. So can you share with the audience your belief about sleep and maybe your own personal sleep habits for healthy longevity?
Yes, sleep is critically important to protect against neurodegeneration, to protect against immune dysfunction, to slow aging, and it's easier said than done for some people. I have to deal with chronic insomnia. Had it for a long time. I need to take medications and a number of supplements just to get a decent night's sleep. It's not as good as other people. And I'm envious of certain people I know. Peter Nygard, he's a billionaire. He's supported a lot of aging research. He's remarkably healthy. He's about 79 years of age. And the way he behaves like a 21-year-old. And I've gone out with him socially. You would not think this is a 79-year-old man, but he's doing a lot of interventions, as I am. But the point is, he only sleeps 5 hours a night, and he gets 5 great hours of sleep, which is why he's a billionaire. He's able to do that. And I do need my 8 hours of sleep, and it's not always easy, but I make sure I get it. What's terrible are people who put their career or something ahead of their sleep. In other words, they sleep well, but they let that alarm clock destroy their nighttime good rhythm, and then they're chronically deprived of sleep. So it's almost like people need to prioritize that sleep above maybe other activities.
Yeah, those are great points, Bill. And I like to tell my audience, and this is what I tell myself, I make sleep the foundation of my life, and then I build everything else from that. So especially right now with a 4-week-old baby, sleep is really tough. And Bill's smiling there. You can't see him because he has 2 kids. And I want to chat about your kids in a minute too, Bill. But sleep is so important. And so what's happening with me the last few weeks since our child was born is my days are just shorter because I don't use an alarm clock. I'm up at various points throughout the night, helping with the child, maybe changing a diaper or just trying to soothe him when he's crying. But I just go back to sleep until it's time to wake up, until my brain and body tells me I'm fully rested and time to wake up. And it's counterintuitive because I'm taking away more time out of my life, but the actual time that I'm awake, I'm way more productive and my brain and body works as efficiently as possible. And that's why, Bill, we scheduled this meeting a little bit later in the day. We're currently recording at it's almost 6:00 p.m. Eastern time. So that's why the lighting's gone down a little bit there for Bill. So in general, I just want the audience to understand that sleep is incredibly important. It can be very difficult to understand how to sleep smarter. So I've done a book review of Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. I'll have it linked in the show notes. You can also see it up there. And he is the sleep scientist for Google, the company, and he's also a sleep scientist at UC Berkeley. So the sleep science is vastly far further ahead than what I realized before I saw Dr. Matthew Walker on Joe Rogan's podcast a year and a half ago. And I also want to mention, I want people to get more excited. I want Bill Faloon to be on Joe Rogan's podcast, for example. Dr. Aubrey de Grey has been on there. David Sinclair has been on there a couple times. But we need more people like Bill to get a massive audience of millions of views and millions of subscribers like Joe Rogan has. So any way that you can share this on social media or share other Bill's work, that will definitely help you in our cause of reversing human aging. So Bill, let's talk about what are some ways that folks can get in touch with you, participate. I know you're not big on social media, but I know the Church of Perpetual Life has an Instagram account, which I'll link. What are some ways people can get involved or get in touch other than, subscribing to Age Reversal Network and obviously donating, which I think.
Well, the good news is if you go to YouTube and just type my name, Bill Faloon, you'll see a heck of a lot of videos of talks that I've given in many impressive forums. I've spoken with celebrities. Suzanne Summers has helped us out so much because I really believe she thinks just like we do. She really wants to live indefinitely, and she has assisted us in so many kind ways. But people want to see my talks. They're all over the internet. You can see those. And then what I try to tell people to do if they're interested in personally engaging in age reversal, we have the agereversal.net website. Our life extension group, we sell blood tests, we sell supplements. We use proceeds from those sales to fund research. We funded over $200 million of different research projects since our inception. And that's going back 42 years. I wish it had been a lot more. And so we're doing work in the field of nutritional sciences, but my fervent desire and my priority is age reversal. And I say that from the standpoint, having done this for 42 years, I met people in the 1980s, 1990s, who were older, they were healthy, and they were doing a lot of good things. Some of them are no longer around. It is absolutely essential we reverse this toxic process in our body known as degenerative aging. We know how to do it in animals. We think we can do it in humans based on small proof of concept studies that we've helped to fund. We believe we're very close to enabling older people to grow younger so they will be alive by year 2030, when aging may be relegated to the past, just like smallpox, polio, diphtheria, a host of diseases that no one ever thought would go away. They're out of our lives right now. And degenerative aging may only be 10 to 12 years away from being eradicated.
And Bill, let's talk about right now what that world will look like, because a lot of people who hear this for the first time get confused. I know this might be overkill for some of the more longevity enthusiasts, but if we reverse aging in humans, it doesn't mean that people are going to live, quote, forever. And I personally never use that language because you can never say, I've done it, I've lived forever, because there's always another second that's going to tick by. I mean, we don't fully understand time as humans, So I think that it's just going to help people live a lot longer. You can still get shot in the head by a violent person or die in a plane crash or get hit by a bus. There's other ways that you can die. But if we do reverse aging, I think that it will change every single aspect of humanity. And I think that you will see humans become even more human or more humane. I think
Absolutely. The accumulated wisdom. There's a saying that every time at least an intelligent person dies, a library burns. And in reality, that applies to everyone. We pick up skill sets. We acquire wisdom in our decades of living. And I look at my age of 65 right now and how different I view the world now compared to when I was younger. You do things in kinder, gentler ways and get better results because you learned how to do it, as opposed to, the realities of having to learn. And everyone has to relearn everything nowadays. It's crazy. When medical doctors go to school until they're 32 sometimes, they have a window to practice before they start to degenerate. So the idea of finding a way to manage aging, it's going to elevate us into the era when, uploading and some of these other controversial techniques, which are being worked on by scientists we're affiliated with, that could convey that immortality one way or another. But just think about a child born who's 30 to 40 initial years, in some cases, are perfectly healthy. They don't have any major problems until aging occurs. If we can reverse aging, so we can transport people back to a biological age of, let's say, 25, they're going to go on living in a very healthy way. And all during that time, more and more interventions will be developed to deal with the diseases they wind up acquiring. So there is potential here to go much further than what some people realize.
Definitely, Bill. And I want to go back to the telomerase gene therapy that we were discussing earlier with Libella Gene Therapeutics and BioViva, Liz Parrish, Bill Andrews. I've interviewed Michael Fossel on this show. He also has his Telecyte company where he's trying to actually work with the FDA and get FDA approval. That company is based in Michigan, and I have immense respect for Dr. Michael Fossel, who wrote the first book on how to reverse aging in 1996. It sounds like to me, Bill, you are a very pragmatic person, and you're taking a very pragmatic approach in helping people. That's what the Church of Perpetual Life is, that which you're involved in. That's what the Age Reversal Network is. You're helping people in the most affordable ways work on reversing their aging. And is that why maybe you don't talk as much or offer any telomerase gene therapy, because it's just so expensive right now? And share your thoughts on that, please.
Well, the telomerase gene therapy is Liz Parrish's project. She's working with Bill Andrews, other incredible scientists. That's her area of research, and we highly respect that. What we are working on, and we work on this 7 days a week, is our interventions trial, where we're going to take currently available and validated safe interventions. Metformin has been used for a long time. And using our senolytic protocol with dasatinib and quercetin, fisetin, well, those are also used by many, many people, and our dosing is so much lower that we're not seeing any serious toxicities. Some people who take dasatinib, they'll feel like they had the flu for maybe 12 hours. That's a small price to pay for removing surplus senescent cells in your body. That's a small price to pay. And I didn't feel it at all, by the way. I've done several rounds of dasatinib, high-dose quercetin, and my blood results continue to indicate I may be growing biologically younger. I'll be sending, by the way, out my most recent blood results from a draw taken just yesterday, showing that I'm doing something. And I can't tell you what is working, but I have, so far, year 2019, inverted my LDL-HDL ratio, meaning my LDL is lower than my HDL. And that's not normal for me. Normal for me would be 160 LDL, which is very atherogenic, around 40 HDL, which is too low. Somehow, through all the interventions I've been doing, I can't pinpoint which one, I've got more HDL than LDL, and I'm older. And typically when you grow older, you got more LDL, less HDL, and atherosclerosis is a problem in people. So I'm seeing my homocysteine, I'm seeing a wide range of markers, including immune tests, are improving. And I can't tell you what's doing that, because I'm doing too many interventions at the same time, which is why we need to do this clinical trial where we control what these people take and measure what's working and what's not.
Yeah, very well said, Bill. And I have kind of the same problems I run into as well, because I've done a number of things. I haven't been doing the same types of things with you. I haven't taken dasatinib or quercetin, and maybe we can talk about that in a moment. I'm only 34. I'm not sure if I need those things. I do take metformin on and off. But I do a lot of intermittent fasting, and I think that my insulin is pretty healthy right now, and I think I sustain that by activating mTOR through my intermittent fasting. But Bill, talk about your pioneering approach, or you understood metformin way before most people, I think dating back to the 1980s, and you tried to get this information out even to the FDA, that it was safe and it should be used for more people for anti-aging benefits. And talk about what it was like also in general to understand these things so much earlier than most people, even experts, or people people who are at the FDA, institutions like that. And what you've had to do, the things that you've had to tell yourself in your own mind to stay positive and keep fighting and know that you're right, because it can be difficult for people. I mean, if you're 1 or 2 steps ahead of the curve, you're, seen as a genius. If you're 3 or 4 or 5, you're seen as crazy. So what's it been like to be more 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of the curve and now been proven right? But how did you get through that back then?
Well, I got through it because it was a life or death matter for me. We battled the FDA for over 9 years. One of those battles was over metformin. They threatened to incarcerate me for life if I did not stop listing it in our Life Extension magazine as an anti-aging drug, and we suggested that most people over age 30 to 40 consider starting metformin, whether or not they were diabetic or not. We looked at the mechanistic properties of metformin and said, well, this seems to have anti-aging potential. So why don't we start taking it now before we become metabolic syndrome type 2 diabetic? So 1995, we've got it listed in a magazine. I was told specifically by a federal prosecutor, FDA people, take that out of your Life Extension magazine or you're going to go to jail for a long time. And I said, well, I can't do that because this drug has the potential to save millions of lives. So if I have to go to jail, that may happen, but I'm going to get that information out there. And you put me in jail, by the way, the publicity is going to make everyone want to take this metformin that you want to deny Americans access to. So it's been a long battle. FDA got in our way in the beginning. We beat them in court. We beat them in Congress, passage of the Dietary Supplement and Education Act in 1994. We have prevailed over FDA interference. Now, so far, they're letting us alone with what we want to do with the experimental age reversal interventions. If they don't let us alone, I'll be on your program again and asking people to, well, write some letters, make some phone calls, not let that happen. We can't afford another 9 years of delay.
That's incredible, Bill. And I'm also into cryptocurrencies, and a lot of people don't understand the connection between cryptocurrencies and age reversal. A lot of people who are interested in one are also interested in the other. So this is a very well-known phenomenon. And I think it leads back to something called volunteerism. So if people are not familiar with that term, volunteerism just basically means that we volunteer to communicate with pretty much everybody in our lives except for government. Government is the exception to that. And government is necessary in certain ways. But I just interviewed Roger Ver on my channel last. I just uploaded that video today. He's been a pioneer in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. He's very well known. He's wealthy. And now he's starting to invest in longevity startups. He's investing in a stem cell company that is in some way related to Dr. Neil Reardon's company. It's going to be in Antigua, the island of Antigua. And, I want people to understand this volunteerism principle because it will maybe give you the roadmap to get past when you're wondering what is the right thing to do here. When we run up against, the FDA or other institutions like that in other countries, I'd say follow the research, be very careful who you follow. Follow people like Bill Faloon, who've been doing this a long time and have shown a proven track record. And, reach out to people if you have questions because, some people just don't have time. And Bill, I'd like to lead in now to the Church of Perpetual Life and your involvement, the compassion that you have. I follow that YouTube channel. I watch a lot of videos. I'll have links in the description below. Neil Francis also does great work. Talk about what the Church of Perpetual Life means to you, how it started, and your involvement in that, please.
Well, I founded the Church of Perpetual Life in year 2013 because what was happening is people were glued to their computer screens and they weren't getting together anymore to openly exchange information. And it's been a remarkable success. We've got medical doctors, scientists, and tremendous numbers of lay people who get together around 6 o'clock on the one Thursday night a month, and we talk. We exchange ideas. We let people know what may be working, what might not be. We identify low-cost sources of medications from offshore companies. We can independently assay these medications as a group, make sure that they're potent and they're going to give us what we're seeking. And then we put on typically a scientific presentation. And then after, we have dinner downstairs, and we continue the social interactions. And the value of this cannot be overstated. We've gotten international media coverage. So many people, mainly around the world, more so in the United States, will fly in and film the Church of Perpetual Life for 1 or 2 days. They'll do an extensive interview with me and others, and they'll let the world know there is a group that believes technology is going to evolve to the point where they will live indefinitely, and they're not just thinking about it, they're intervening right now in the way they live, the experimental interventions they're involved in. So it's been a success that I didn't, frankly, anticipate.
That's really exciting. And that's in Hollywood, Florida, where you live, or is it in a different city nearby?
It's in Hollywood, Florida, which is about an hour and a half it takes me to get there every Thursday night. And I usually just have a conference call going on the way down there just to not burn out my time. But yeah, the distance was a little bit of a challenge, but it's the perfect church. It was an old Baptist church, and they sold out, but right before they sold out, they remodeled it. So we were able to acquire it at a nice low price. And we were able to get typically 130 people there, especially during these times of year and during the season in Florida. And it's really just an uplifting experience to see all these people gathered together who want to see the same scientific objectives accomplished.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And these are my words. I'll let Bill reply. But what I generally think about religion is that for all of human history, we haven't been able to slow, stop, or reverse aging in any meaningful way. So what we have to do as a society, what humans did is they came up with all these philosophical reasons of why aging is good and it's natural and you should learn to accept it and be at peace with it. And I think that religion is what played the major role in that understanding. But now that this is changing, I think that a lot of people need some type of a religious affiliation or church or just people to mingle with. You know, we're social creatures. And I think that the Church of Perpetual Life is really filling that void for some folks very well. And that's just my language. I don't want people to get too upset or take this the wrong way. It's just kind of how I view this. My mother is Jewish and my father is Catholic. So I was raised with both religions, going to synagogue and going to church. My dad's also from Kentucky. He's a corporate defense attorney and he's a Republican. And my mom's born in Manhattan, lived in the northern part of the country, and she's a social worker and a Democrat. So my upbringing was interesting. I had to have an open mind from a very young age, and so did my brother and sister. But in general, Bill, you know, based off what I've stated there, obviously this was important, or this was part of what, you know, I'm sure influenced you to create the Church of Perpetual Life. Your thoughts on what I stated there?
Well, again, when I first started in South Florida, we had a meetup group of about 15 people. We get together every single month, and virtually nobody ever missed those meetups because in the 1970s, no internet. The only way to exchange information was face-to-face contact. We clip scientific studies, newspaper articles. In fact, it was during one of those meetings that the concept of parabiosis was first brought up, because they were showing that when you circulate young blood into old animals, the animals were growing younger. And conversely, of course, the younger animals getting the toxic factors in the old blood, they were accelerating their aging process. But we were exchanging lots and lots of information. And then the internet and all the different types of communication start to diminish the people who wanted to attend these types of regular meetings. So I thought, let me just set up a church, give people lots of space, give them good science, give them good philosophy. And we put the group together, and right now I'm looking for a bigger church because we've frankly outgrown it. We can barely fit the number of people who want to come into our parking lot and into the main church area.
That's very exciting, and congratulations. You can see that when you watch the Church of Perpetual Life YouTube video. They'll scan out a lot at the beginning, and you can see the audience, and during the end, during Q&A as well.
Well, what you don't see, by the way, is downstairs. We have a large downstairs area where we put the service on TV screens. And some people just prefer to hang out downstairs and talk while I'm talking, and it'd be rude to do that in the main area, but downstairs they can interact and listen at the same time. So it's actually more people attending than what those videos show.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. And that shows just the difference of being in person compared to video conference. Video conference is great. The internet's great, but it never beats being, in person. Bill, I also want to chat real quickly about, since you mentioned parabiosis, I interviewed Dr. Maharaj at RadFest, who was very near, your all's booth there when you were running the clinical trial. Dr. Maharaj is running a clinical trial right now taking young human plasma, and I believe young is defined as 25 to 16-year-olds, and they're putting that in older people, and I believe that they're doing age 50 and above, and maybe it's 50 to 90, and I joked with Dr. Maharaj, hey, what about the 91-year-olds? Why are you hating on them? But I was also kind of being serious. Why not go up higher? But in any event, he needed to continue to raise money. $10 million is what they needed to continue the trial, but we'll follow that as it goes. you have a relationship with Dr. Maharaj, I believe, and can you share what that is and how you've been following his work at all?
Well, we have many relationships with Dr. Maharaj, all favorable. Back in 2009, there were some indications that a certain immune boosting therapy might cure cancer in people because it was doing it in mice. We donated, our Life Extension group donated $800,000 so that Dr. Maharaj could attempt to emulate those animal studies in people. And the results were minimal, that we just didn't see that kind of result. But you know what we did is we X'd that potential out. We don't have to wonder forever, is there a cure for cancer and no one's ever tried it in people. That $800,000 bought us human studies to reveal that we need to do a little bit more to cure cancer. And we've contributed to his research in a lot of different ways. I spent 3 years trying to raise the $10 million for Dr. Maharaj. I spent a lot of my own money attempting to do that. And what he's doing now, which is what Liz Parrish and others are doing, is self-funded research, where people who want to engage are going to have to pay the cost themselves because we were unable to raise that $10 million in a variety of ways that we attempted. But the good news is he is moving forward, and he's doing a lot more than the succinct description that you described. He's mobilizing their bone marrow in a way that these older people are going to get a lot of pro-youth factors. And the reason you can't take people over age 90 is you only have a limited budget. You only have so much money. And those people over 90 may be too far advanced in their aging process to show meaningful regenerative results. So first we have to take the low-lying fruit, people in their 70s, maybe early 80s, and see what kind of age reversal we can get in that group. And then, of course, progress to the higher ages.
Thank you for those details, Bill. So what I hear is, get involved now. Don't miss out. Don't wait until it's too late. You're probably not watching this if you're 87, but maybe you are. Maybe you're on YouTube watching. But don't hesitate. Get involved. Do what you can. I also heard that Dr. Maharaj is self-funding along with Bill and Liz. And I'll just say myself, nobody's paying me to do this. Nobody's paying Bill. This is a voluntarism interaction Bill and I are doing. We're doing this because we care. And so you can donate to Age Reversal Network. The link will be in the description below. If you want to help me out, you can also donate as well. And I want to now talk about, Bill, your kids, because I learned of you from watching many YouTube videos, as you said before, just typing your name in over many years and learning so many amazing things about life extension through you. But I've never heard you talk about your kids. And I met both of your kids. They were working their tails off at RadFest, assisting with the clinical trial. They look so much like you, so that was interesting and always fun to see. They kind of acted like you in a few ways as well, too, just kind of their mannerisms. But talk about what you've instilled in your children as far as just ethics, morals, and then also about, how they're thinking about life extension. And I can imagine having you as my dad. So talk about that.
Well, yes, I was voted the best dad in their very big high school for a lot of reasons that I wouldn't go into on your show. But let me just say how I would raise children or enlighten anybody. I'm not capable of telling people what to do, but I am capable of giving them good choices. So from the time my kids were little, we would make regular visits to cemeteries, crematories if we could. And there would be sometimes open graves waiting for that burial vault to be put in there, mausoleums. And I would just give them a choice. I would say, this is where everyone goes who is not signed up for cryopreservation. And it's where everyone goes if we don't find a cure for aging. And it's where you go prematurely if you don't take care of yourself. So I said, these are your hard choices. And I'm not going to tell you which direction to go. You got the ground, you got the mausoleums, you got the crematory, or you've got cryopreservation where there's some chance of revival. But we'd like to avoid cryopreservation if we can by gaining control over aging, finding cures for diseases, and enabling people to live long enough until, we're uploaded and we live indefinitely. And so they always had that choice, and they chose the right path as to what direction they were going to go. They both have degrees in biology. My son's taking MCAT courses now. He hopes to get into medical school. They are 100% dedicated to this mission as what they want to do for the rest of their life. And it wasn't because I told them to do it, just gave them the choice.
That's phenomenal, Bill. They're great kids, and it was an honor to meet them at RadFest and see them working so hard because they believe in it and because they look up to you, I'm sure. Bill, one thing that you and I chatted about at RadFest privately, which I wish I would have just started recording. I think I saw you in the hallway. It was Saturday night. Everybody else was like dancing at the party. And, you know, I don't have time to dance. I know I'm younger, but I want to make connections. I want to learn as much as I can. And what we talked about was some of the billionaires, wealthy people who have shown an interest in anti-aging. We already mentioned Peter Nygard, who you have a relationship with. I mentioned that I just interviewed Roger Ver. You know, he likes to keep his net worth private. It's in cryptocurrency, but he's wealthy and he's looking to learn. And I also mentioned to you that off camera, Dr. Bill Andrews, after I interviewed him at Sierra Sciences on May 30th, Bill shared with me a lot of folks who had been sitting at his conference table where we were in Reno, Nevada, and over the years who have been interested in investing. Larry Ellison was one of those people who have been there, one of the wealthiest people on the planet. He's probably in the neighborhood of worth something around $60 billion today. I mentioned to you, Peter Attia runs an anti-aging practice in New York. He has a client who's been friends with Warren Buffett for decades. And he said that he would see Warren Buffett about every 6 months for decades. And Warren would always tell him about a new venture he's interested in, a new company, a new business strategy. Well, for the last couple of years, Warren Buffett has only told his friend about the anti-aging research he's been doing. Warren Buffett is 89 years old today, and he's worth about $88 billion. I mean, that is one person. If we could somehow get them to learn this information and invest, game changer, immediately changes the whole thing. Just $1 billion, even $100 million. Jeff Bezos has invested $100 million, and I believe it was, I can't remember the name of the company right now.
Synolytic company.
Yeah.
He's looking to use Synolytic technology. Let me just say that the good news is, and I've done many presentations where I put these people's name on the big PowerPoint screens, the billionaires are putting big money into age reversal research. Problem is they're going the conventional route, which means you develop a drug, you prove it works in animals, and you move forward through the FDA approval process. And in a way, you're looking at different investment partnerships, patent applications. All that's great news for your kids and maybe my kids, but we don't have time for the FDA approval process to determine which drugs work and which drugs don't, which is why we've launched our Vitality and Aging Interventions trial, which, by the way, is fully funded. People don't have to pay to be part of that trial. But nonetheless, the research that we and Liz Parrish and some others are doing are aimed at ascertaining in the next 2 years what is really working, what is failing, what can we do to improve what we're seeking to accomplish. Whereas the billionaires, they're putting money into conventional companies. I don't think they want to risk their personal freedom. We will risk our personal freedom if we see a therapy working. We're certainly not going to let the FDA come in and say, you can't do this if it's working. And so we are definitely the renegades out there when it comes to moving this technology forward extremely fast without financial bias. Because once you put money into the equation, people argue, what cut am I supposed to get? What's my percentage? What's my royalty rate? And then you go to apply for a patent, and everyone wants their name on a patent in a certain way. And publish papers, they want their name on top. So there's so many roadblocks to taking a technology and transforming it into clinical reality. We've eliminated all those. The Age Reversal Network is a public benefit group. We don't have any financial conflicts. We simply want to identify what is working, how well it is working, how we can improve what is already working. So it's a big difference between what our small group is doing with limited resources compared to what billionaires are doing who are putting hundreds of millions of dollars into projects. But they're doing it the conventional way, which means slow regulation and sometimes denial by the FDA.
Yeah, definitely. Very well stated. And it is exciting to see, you know, more billionaires or just wealthy people in general understanding this and starting to either donate or invest in these startups. I was at Calico, Google's spinoff, a couple of years ago because they were an account of mine when I was at LinkedIn. And I met a lot of their HR team because I was selling learning, and normally HR makes decisions for that. But they wouldn't share much information with me when I asked about what they were doing, and they haven't really published or shared much information. And I was really excited when I saw Calico being formed. I believe it was in late 2012 or 2013. And it's just frustrating that a company like Google with all those resources, doesn't seem to be making much progress. Have you followed Calico at all or what they've done?
Well, actually, Brent, you're the one that enlightened me more about Calico than what I knew before, but it's the perfect example of billionaires recognizing their own mortality. They want to do something about aging. So their instinct is, let's just put a lot of money into something.
Yeah.
And it's good. It may result in something being discovered, but it's not good enough for me. I'm a duck in a shooting gallery at age 65. I and my followers, we need to do something much quicker than what just writing a big check and dumping into a company is going to accomplish. We've already, in the past, identified what may work. It's being more and more validated to work, and we're now hoping to prove it through our interventions trial. So it's good that the billionaires are recognizing the importance of this, but they're not pursuing it in the most expeditious manner.
Yeah, great points, Bill. And one other company or charity that I don't think I have mentioned to you, which you may or may not be aware of, that I've looked into even more since you and I met in October, is the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. So this is Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Chan. They've set up this charity, and Mark Zuckerberg has donated $8 billion for sure dollars of Facebook stock to this initiative. And I think he's now developed maybe even 11 billion. And I think he has plans to donate even more. So Mark Zuckerberg, one of the wealthiest people on the planet, founder of Facebook, what they are working on, what their mission statement is basically, don't freak out on the internet, people, if I get a word wrong, but they're basically trying to stop all aging and end all chronic diseases, or I don't even think they use the word chronic, end all diseases of humans by the end of the century. And how they're trying to do that is they're trying to fund individual projects, scientists around the world better. Basically understand what they're trying to do, see if it makes sense to them, and then fund them more. So they're not trying to kind of do this all under their umbrella and micromanage everything. I think they're trying to seek out what makes sense to work on this and then give them money. So I can't think of a better institution to kind of reach out to and let them know about the Age Reversal Network and Libella Gene Therapeutics, BioViva, these SENS, Aubrey de Grey's Research Foundation, and see if we can get funding that way. I want the audience to think, let's elephant hunt. Let's go after the big whales who have the money, who are openly saying that they want to work on this problem. So that's how I generally think about this. I don't want people to get too upset if I gotten a few minor details wrong, but Bill, have you heard of them, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, the Zuckerbergs have set up a trust, and their objective is by the end of the century to cure 99% of all diseases affecting humanity. A spectacular objective, the best way you could possibly put charitable money towards. However, it's not quick enough for our generation. And I'm talking about people 40 to 50 years of age and older. We face the
problem. Sorry to cut you off. It's the first time I've done it. I'm 34. It's not fast enough for me. Go even further. Let's lower our time horizon here, Well,
I'm a little optimistic, but you should never take my optimism as a way just to stop practicing healthy lifestyle choices. Not at all. But for people over 40 to 50, they need accelerated development of these regenerative therapies. They can't wait till the end of this century. They won't be around if we don't slow down and reverse their aging processes. So we applaud Zuckerberg. During most of my presentations, I'll put a PowerPoint up there applauding Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all the billionaires that are putting money into this. And this is unprecedented. These wealthy people finally realizing I can potentially buy myself and the rest of humanity a much longer lifespan. This is great news. But we need to be in the trenches, which is what our Age Reversal Network is doing. We're in the trenches taking what is working in laboratory models, doing proof of concept human studies. If those results are favorable, we add that to our stair-step approach to biological age control, getting real results in real time and soon enough to save the people we care for.
Very well stated. All right, Bill, you've been very gracious with your time. I appreciate it so much. I want to end with some action items for the audience. And earlier during this conversation, you were discussing things that individuals can be doing to improve their health right now, help slow, stop, and maybe even some things that can reverse aging with more of the therapeutics. But what I heard was we talked about sleep, we talked about intermittent fasting, we talked about getting your blood work done. Before I kind of finish this question, Bill, what is the best way to get a comprehensive blood panel done? Can you share that in detail?
Well, our life extension group has been offering these since the mid-1990s. The reason we offered them is medical doctors were refusing to prescribe tests for, like, say, homocysteine and C-reactive protein and hormones. The doctors were just saying, you don't need that. We were tired of the doctors being dictocrats in that regard, so we set up a national blood testing service in conjunction with a big national lab, and our supporters are able to get a blood draw in typically their own neighborhood, and the results come in within about a week, and the cost is very efficient because we're doing a group purchase. Blood tests would cost over $2,000. We have people paying around $300 for them with our life extension group. And through the Age Reversal Network, we're using that same bulk buying power to get even more comprehensive blood tests available for around $495. And that gives you, number one, a baseline to determine what you're doing, how well it's working, and it also enables you to identify underlying pathologies that could result in type 2 diabetes manifesting in 5 to 10 years, a malignancy, a blocked coronary artery. It enables you to get yourself as healthy as possible today so you can benefit from all these. So our lifeextension.com, people can go on there, they can order their own blood test online for a fraction of the commercial price, or they can just review the blood test we recommend and have their insurance company perhaps pay for it. We used to recommend that to people, but nowadays insurance companies don't seem to want to pay for anything. So you more than likely have to pay out of pocket. But we've taken what would normally cost $2,000 and brought that down to around $300, so people can save a lot of money and then garner that vital information.
Thank you, Bill. So with your clinical trial, I think you said it's about 40 to 50 people that will actually be receiving the treatment, and those people have been chosen. Is that correct?
Those people have been chosen through our second study, which is called the Vitality and Aging Longitudinal Study. Now that's open to everyone, and they do have to self-fund their initial screening, which right now is around $495. That gets them that comprehensive blood test and registration in the longitudinal study. And then we will recommend various interventions such as metformin, dasatinib, rapamycin, and we'll recommend certain sources that have been independently validated to be fully potent, and they can pretty much shadow the interventions trial we were doing. The only difference is they do have to pay out of pocket for the medications, which don't cost a lot. Here in South Florida, the biggest grocery chain gives away a month of metformin for free. Just walk into their store with a prescription and they give it away. It's that inexpensive. And there are offshore sources of dasatinib and rapamycin that only cost a couple $100s a year. A more expensive therapy, part of all this, is a dietary supplement called nicotinamide riboside. It regrettably costs more than it should because, well, Dartmouth discovered it and they want a big fat royalty check for it. And I regret that because when we introduced melatonin back in 1992, we could have charged $30, $40 a bottle for it so easily. And we said, we don't need to do this. Melatonin doesn't cost that much. We charged $8 for a 2-month supply. So every insomniac who wanted to try it could try it for $8. And it's what enabled our life exchanger group, frankly, to survive the assault that the FDA was waging against us. We had so many people that were being helped by melatonin, or at least recognizing that, hey, they didn't gouge me price-wise. I got a 2-month supply of this stuff for only $8. And we're seeking to do the same type of pricing structure with various drugs, which we don't sell, but we're identifying low-cost, reliable sources. So people who are in our longitudinal study can shadow the group in the interventions trial and not necessarily spend a lot of money.
Thank you, Bill. Can you share how many people Age Reversal Network has taken the blood panel on or assisted them over the years? A rough number, do you have any idea?
I don't have the exact numbers. Our life extension group has probably done hundreds of thousands of blood tests since we started offering it direct to the public in 1996. And again, the main reason for doing that is we were recommending people have their homocysteine, their C-reactive protein, their hormones, a number of different specialized tests. We were putting in our newsletter, please have these done. And our calls would come in saying, my doctor won't prescribe it. And I'm thinking, well, blood tests shouldn't even require a prescription. They just draw on blood. But nonetheless, there was that blockage. We overrode that blockage by hiring a doctor and having him oversee our blood testing program. So our life extension group has done just lots of them over the years. The Age Universal Network, probably many, many hundreds of them. In fact, we've got 350 people enrolled in a longitudinal study now, and they've all paid around $5.95 for a much more comprehensive set of blood tests. And that gives them that baseline to personally monitor their own progress, and it also enables them to potentially enroll in the interventions trial, which costs them nothing.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, Bill. So final action items for people, get your blood panel taken, understand more of what's going on in your body is what I'm hearing from Bill, and his action items for folks so that you're not sabotaging yourself. Personalized medicine is the future of medicine, and the future is now. Is that fair to say, Bill?
It is, and they don't need the more elaborate panels if they're younger, typically. If you're, let's say around 30 years of age, if you want to get our comprehensive panel at Life Extensions under $300. If that's too much for you, we have a CBC chemistry panel for $35, and it gives you some very good basic information about what may be going wrong with you. And then you can wait a couple of years if you're younger and test it again to see if anything has worsened. But older people, that they should engage in the more comprehensive type blood testing, because we can then identify small little problems that can be circumvented before it manifests into frank disease.
Okay, great. So blood panel, get your blood work understood so that you can use that information to improve your health. Sleep, we've mentioned that. It is complex. I talk about it a lot. I'm interviewing a couple of sleep scientists coming up on this channel, so stay subscribed for that. Intermittent fasting is something that Bill has mentioned. It's something that him and I both practice daily. So this is a daily routine. We didn't even discuss longer term fasting, like 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Have you tried that, Bill? And do you believe in that?
I do believe in it. I haven't tried it. I should in many respects, but I find that the intermittent fasting works so well for me. I'm never hungry. I'm never saying I can't wait for 3 hours when I can eat. So it's so easy to do. And again, my blood work up this whole year of 2019 has been remarkable. My blood draw yesterday, I got most of the results in, and I look healthier than a typical 21-year-old. And we do test a lot of 21-year-olds. Believe it or not, there's younger people who want these comprehensive tests. And I'm looking at their results and mine. I'm 65, they're 21. I'm looking a lot better. And I can't even tell you what I'm doing is causing these results to improve, because I'm doing so many interventions simultaneously, which is extremely inefficient from a scientific discovery standpoint. So we need to do controlled studies. We're launching ours January 2020, like Liz Parrish is launching hers, and that could work out really well, because after 12 months, we think we're going to see some results, and if she sees some results, put them together, we may have a tremendous breakthrough.
Yeah, and Bill, one thing that I mentioned to Dr. Aubrey de Grey when I interviewed him, and something that I've thought about for a number of years, is that unfortunately this is never going to show up in a study without very carefully worded questions in a huge cohort, is be doing what you enjoy. You can tell that Bill is passionate about this, and he's been doing this for 42 years because he believes it's important. And this is why I'm doing this as well too. Nobody's paying me money. I ask for donations, I get almost nothing, and same, Bill knows the frustration of that as well too. But I really think if you're doing what you believe is important and passionate about, then you're enjoying every day, and you don't have the stress hormones coming in all the time, right, and hurting your biology. So I think that's really important.
There's no question. I mean, I enjoy it every day. There's nothing more than I like to do, because I mean, some people go out and lay by the beach all day long. I don't know how they do that, because I couldn't. But yeah, it's fascinating. We're seeing progress occur every single day. I'm getting emails in from scientists who are making small little discoveries, and we amalgamate those discoveries. We develop a clinical trial. We develop a way to prove whether or not all these intermediate discoveries are going to yield the ultimate result.
Perfect. And then final thing on the action items category, Bill, we didn't mention exercise. Can you share your general thoughts on exercise and what you do for exercise in general?
Well, exercise is a way to slow and reverse aging. It is critically important. However, it's highly individualistic. I don't do enough of it. Some people do too much and they develop joint disorders. But Peter Nygard, 79 years of age, does 500 push-ups. He's an addict to exercise. I'm not, but I do enough to hopefully not let that be my cause of demise. So exercise, very important. And the sleep, as you mentioned, critically important. I think most of your viewers understand that. And what we're trying to do is move beyond those basics into a realm where people are literally intervening into the specific biological mechanisms of aging so that we can extend their life long enough for CRISPR-Cas9 to be that ultimate cure.
Definitely, Bill. I so appreciate the work that you are doing and your team with those therapies. While I do agree that most people understand the basics of eat right, sleep, exercise, think positively, I don't think people do it enough. So that's why I continue to mention it and try and get thoughts on the people who I interview about that, because it can be more complex than people think. And I want to make sure people are doing that first, because those are the things that you can do right now. And that, as you mentioned, you should be doing to get more benefits of actually spending money, time, and energy, injecting yourself, popping pills, doing all these therapies that are going to get you to that next level. So that's kind of why I bring that up.
And I concur. It's very important to remind people because they read about it and at some point they forget. So the more that you're redundant with that basic proven information, the more lives you're going to help.
Perfect, Bill. Well, I think that's a great way to end it. I want to give you an opportunity to share last thoughts. I think that we've plugged you pretty well. People know how to get in touch with you. They know how to find information that you provide on the internet. We'll have all the links in the show notes. Final thoughts, please, Bill.
Well, the bottom line for anyone listening who's seeking to obtain healthy longevity is to stay informed. There's a lot of good websites out there, a lot of dedicated people writing and publishing information. Our agereversal.net, our Age Reversal Network, we're looking at every avenue that we can explore and then validate to see if we can't just add a couple extra years here and there or reverse certain pathological conditions. So just staying informed, I cannot emphasize how critically important that is, because there's going to be an era where there's going to be the people who were staying informed and following through with the interventions, and they're going to see people their own age degenerating very rapidly. It's going to be that much of a difference. And there already is, frankly. You've got people in the United States who are obese, they smoke cigarettes, they have all kinds of horrific lifestyle patterns, and they die much sooner, but in the process of dying, they suffer many comorbidities. They've got multiple illnesses that ruin the quality of their life. So it's just so easy to keep informed with the internet. You can not only watch what people say and listen to it, you can validate it. You can go to pubmed.gov and see if what that person was saying is at least has some validation in the peer-reviewed published literature.
Very well stated, Bill. And I'll piggyback on one thing there. You can actually start getting even more involved by contacting these people, going to conferences, networking with them. You know, there are more ways now in 2019, almost 2020, to get involved, to make an impact on this. And if you are really busy working at a job to support a family or yourself or whatever, and all you have time to do is watch this stuff on the internet in any way or read articles, then you can also donate. So I'll just give one more plug to you, Bill. Please donate or get involved with the Age Reversal Network. So, Bill, thank you so much for your time. You've been so gracious. I really appreciate it. And I cannot understate the value that you have provided for so many people, even if they don't know it. My little kid is almost 4 weeks old, and he has no idea who you are yet, but he will know one day who you are and how much you've done to contribute to humanity on the biggest problem in the world, which is aging and disease, because it's killing more people than anything else on the planet. It's about 110,000 people every day that die from aging or age-related diseases out of about 150,000 people that die daily. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, it is. And yet, if there's some violent act and one person dies, that's headline news. And I want to create another news channel and say, how many pancreatic cancer patients died today? In fact, total cancer patients, about 1,600 a day in the United States every day. And whenever I see a news broadcast, even about 20 people being horrifically killed, it's terrible. But I think the 1,600 cancer deaths ought to be addressed a little bit more serious.
I agree. And if it bleeds, it leads. There's a journalism saying there for a reason, and it's definitely true, and it's definitely sad. But we'll leave the audience with a positive note that we started with. 60 Minutes, Dr. George Church, Scott Pelley, I commend them for that. And we want to see more mainstream media outlets like this because let's face it, not everybody's going to be watching BrentNally's YouTube channel. We need this to get out to the public, and it will really, really take off if people start believing.
Fantastic, Brent. I look forward to doing another podcast and reporting on our findings.
Definitely. We'll make this a cadence to keep up with your work at least every 6 months or year or so to keep the audience informed.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Bill.
You're very welcome.
Forever young, I want to be forever young. Do you really want to live forever?
One life,
Forever
one love,
and ever.
one soul.
Subsidized.